Now we have Brona Walsh from MacKillop Family Services who will be presenting on strengthening outcomes through animal-assisted education. How can you possibly go wrong with that? A collaboration across sectors. Brona Walsh is the Education and Engagement Programs Director at MacKillop Family Services and is dedicated to fostering inclusive and supportive learning environments for all students. With a strong background in education, program development and community engagement, Brona is particularly passionate about supporting students who are disengaged from learning and those living in out-of-home care. Thank you so much, Brona.
Thank you, Mandy. I'm just going to get my slides up. Hang on. Can you see the slides okay, Mandy?
I can. I put my
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. Welcome. I'm very excited to be here today presenting on our fabulous Paw Pals program that we run at MacKillop Family Services.
Hi, Brona. It's Sarah here. We can see your notes slides. If you wouldn't mind just swapping the display settings.
Oh, yeah.
Up. See if that will.
How about that?
Nope, we might need to just reshare. Oh, there we go. There we go. Got it.
All good?
Beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you. I just wanted to, before we start, just acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting and pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. We are at MacKillop, we understand that supporting the aims of Reconciliation Australia acknowledges that each step forward in our reconciliation journey will make real life educational impacts for future citizens, which is very important and key to the work that we do. So just before we get started, I might just introduce myself. My name is Brona Walsh and I am MacKillop's Education and Engagement Programs Director. I oversee a number of the education programs here at MacKillop Family Services. Our programs support young people, children and young people who are at risk of disengaging, but also those who have disengaged from education and need support, significant support to return to school or education settings. We believe that this is really, really important work. We know it's very difficult work, and it's long-term work that needs to happen for our young people. But we're very proud to be doing this work across not just MacKillop, but many of the agencies and CSOs across Victoria. So just getting to know us a little bit about Paw Pals. So Paw Pals is what we call an animal-assisted education program, and it's been provided at MacKillop Family Services since 2018. We offer tailored student supports in emotional and social well-being, and we offer that to individual students in addition to going into schools and running group sessions. We deliver sessions across many different settings, including schools, residential care homes, foster care settings, and as well, we'll travel out to community service organisations to provide that support. We are a team, a multidisciplinary team of teachers, social workers, youth workers, and therapy dog handlers. So some of our staff have come across from some of the major assistance dog training organisations in Australia. They have identified that they love training dogs to be assistance dogs, but they also have that real passion and desire to help. And so they're coming across and they're using their skills to, I suppose, collaborate and help us really unpack and understand the training element that goes in the background, and then how that can match in with meeting the needs of our young people. So that collaborative approach within our team is really what's building on the success of our program. Our staff they operate from a trauma-informed framework, which really understands the impact of developmental trauma on students' learning and education. And the difference between, I suppose, just to unpack, animal-assisted education comes under the umbrella term of therapy dogs. But underneath that umbrella, there's many different types of therapy dog, I suppose, services. So you might have a well-being dog to provide emotional well-being. You may have animal-assisted activities or interventions, which may be, for example, an occupational therapist or speech and language therapist, and they might do activities. But for the purpose of our program, we're talking about animal-assisted education. And so the difference in that is that we are goal-focused and goal-driven. And that is around removing barriers for children to learn in their learning and connection with school. So this is our beautiful Millie. Millie was she was our very first therapy dog. And I suppose just to take us all the way back to where this started, this collaborative approach started, we've got to go all the way back to 2018. And it started with a colleague of mine who was going out to a residential care home. She's going out every week, a teacher, going out every week to try and support a young lady out there to re-engage with education. And she was having quite a difficult time in connecting with professionals. She often went to her room and avoided professionals when they came to the residential care home. She hadn't been to school in a couple of years, and she had experienced quite significant trauma, and that trauma was ongoing in the community at the time that we were working with her. I believe she was 15 at the time. The teacher was going, in and out of the home, trying everything. She had her bag of tricks with her and trying all these different things to support that young person to feel safe and engage with her, and it just wasn't happening. She eventually got to the point where the young person did share that she had left the previous placement that she had left. She'd left behind her beautiful golden retriever and or her golden lab, and that was where that staff member came back to me and said, look, do you think, is there any way, I reckon if we could, hook her in? She loves animals, but because of the barriers she faces, we can't get her into a course, we can't get her to a trip to the zoo, we can't, all of these things that we would generally try. We're just not, she's just not at that place. She needs support in the home to feel safe before we can get her out into the community. And so that's where we said, well, you've got this beautiful dog at home. What can we do about that? And so internally, we started collaborating with all of our teams at MacKillop and, ringing and checking, insurance-wise, can we do this? And what would that look like? And, how would we manage this? And then we reached out to some of the training providers across the therapy dog industry to seek support. And we were very lucky to be supported by some of the top therapy dog training organizations in Victoria, and they really encouraged us and they really supported us in them early days to understand how to do it safely, how to focus on the well-being of the dog, as well as how to integrate it into the work that we do, maintaining that we're the professionals in the role and the dog is coming in with us as a partner in that relationship now. That program, that child went from not engaging, I can't tolerate, conversations with professionals, I'm not ready, to fully engaged, writing resumes, training this dog within, I'd say, a fortnight. And it was the one thing that she engaged in every single week. So the purpose of the program was to support this child. The other children in that home queried why they couldn't have this support. And then other residential care homes were also reaching out. And so that's where it started. And it grew and grew and grew. And it really is, I'm really, I'm reflecting on what Anne and Katrine shared around that gap in services for children in out-of-home care. And it can't highlight and emphasize enough that the lack of outreach services that will go into these homes and work with our young people to help them feel safe. And that's where Paw Pals comes in and can be that bridge between the out-of-home care sector and schools. And that might mean that we need to spend some time working with the young person to get them feeling safe and confident and back on track for learning, but also to understand their learning needs before we try and transition them back into a school setting. Here are some of our wonderful therapy dogs. As you can see, we've got a collaborative approach in our team. We've got lots of different breeds, ages, And all of these dogs have different personalities. And so looking at our beautiful on the top, Lucy and Odie are full of energy. And the young men that we work with who have a lot of energy, they love working with them. Down the bottom, we've got Rafa and Millie. They are very quiet and calm. And so they're great for the kids that might be feeling a bit low and they really need that gentle and supported approach. So we are, as I mentioned, we're very lucky in that we have a multidisciplinary team of our facilitators as well as accredited therapy dogs who are trained to go in and out of these settings. And we really focus on enhancing the emotional, social, and academic well-being of the students that we work with. The areas that we focus on is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management, and responsible decision-making. And we've identified that these are areas that our students really need while they transition back into a school space. I just wanted to stop, I just pause for a minute and just to point out how the program might work. If people are trying to think, how do you do that? How do you go in and work with a young person who's disengaged and unpack with them with a dog? How does that happen? So this is just a quick example of how it happens. This is Pebble's safety plan. All of our dogs have safety plans. They're all different. All of our dogs have different, triggers. They have different things that they love. I think, if I'm right, Pebbles really loves ball playing, whereas some of our other dogs really enjoy trick training. So all of our dogs have safety plans. One of the first things we do with our young people in groups or individual sessions is we explain the safety plans and we go through them with the kids and we explain how, presenting in this way. So if we're seeing Pebbles running around, really excited, maybe panting a lot, that she's probably feeling, heightened or overstimulated. And then that there's certain things that we can implement to help her get back to her green zone. And so we do a lot of this work with the young people to understand how to read body language, map that to feelings, and then map that to support strategies for our dogs. Generally, when we do this work, I've had done this work for quite a long time before we had therapy dogs working with them. And often the students might feel that it's a paper-based exercise and it can be quite hard to get that buy-in or for them to really understand it. But when we're doing it with the dogs, they're so empathetic towards our therapy dogs that they really tune into it. We teach them to watch for the micro body language signs in our dogs, like their ears might be tipped forward a bit. Oh, that means they're on alert. What area does that sit in? What zone are we sitting in with that? So the dogs, the young people really focus on understanding and reading our dogs. And then we might show them some other plants and explain that everyone's plants are different. Then we will sit with them and we'll explain, now do you understand why it's so important that we have our own, that when you're feeling a certain way, you might act in a certain way and what you might need to implement for yourself. So it's a really beautiful way of starting out with a young person and explaining this. We find that they stay in really, really in their thinking zones when we're going through this, because the connection is to learning about the dog. It's not so much focused on them at the start. It's more about learning and unpacking around our dog's needs. And so they're really, really invested in the learning. Then they create their own plan and we work together over the couple of weeks to work that out. We hand that over to the schools at the end of our time with the young person, and we do that in collaboration with the young person to ensure that they understand and they're really open to that. They say, yep, this is really important to me. I really want people to understand this, to be able to read my body language, to know what it means. Often they will say that they might be interpreted to be in a zone, but that's not actually the case. So it's a really powerful tool for them to get their voice heard and in this type of a document. So our programs, as I said, we focus on a couple of different domains. We do pre and post evaluations across our programs, and our data has shown that across the domains that we focus on, that we see an increase in self-management, self-awareness, and social awareness as well in the work that we do. We also collect qualitative data, which supports us to understand I suppose what teachers are seeing off the back of a student involved in our program, but also to understand from the students themselves and have student voice within that program. So I've taken some out of our last surveys around student feedback. So some of the feedback that we've received is I feel more connected to my school friends, learning more about friendships. I've learned that dogs have feelings just like people. I've learned how to be resilient. It doesn't matter. This is a really big one for me. It doesn't matter if you get things wrong, you just keep trying. And that one's one that we teach. Just a beautiful example of how animal assisted education can be so powerful. In that partnership between the handler, the dog, and the young person is often we'll see our dogs make a mistake. Like we'll ask them, sit and stay on the mat, good job. And they might leave the mat, and we'll say to the kids, oh, you know, Lucy's gotten off the mat. She knows she's not allowed. It's meant to be her resting time. What are we going to do? What do we do if we make a mistake? Do we pack up and go home? What are we going to do? And the kids will say, no, 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 we can't do that. She just made a mistake. And we'll say, okay, well, what are the options? And they'll say, well, why don't we just pop her back on the mat and give her a second chance? And I'll say, that's great. And then we'll just have that conversation and say, you know, sometimes we get things wrong, sometimes we make mistakes. It's really important that we take that opportunity to have a think about our next step and keep on going, because we can't be giving up on things. And the kids are listening. You can see them tuning into that and really paying attention. So our cross-sector collaborations, we're really, our lessons, I suppose, have been around the importance of that collaboration across all of the divisions and sectors that we work with, and really focusing on bridging that gap between schools and community services, in addition to the foster care placements and residential care placements. Within our teams, we're really focused on collaborating at a higher level around with the Department of Education and Department of Families and Fairness to ensure that our young people that we're working with have this access to these type of interventions to ensure that they can continue to grow. I think when we take a young person or a group on, we really focus on understanding the needs. And that's a lot of work back and forwarding with a school or a case manager around what do we want to get out of this. And that's, I believe, why this program has grown and grown and grown to be so successful. Just a quick look at the numbers. So as I said earlier on, we set out to work with that one student. We've now worked with over 900. We had one therapy dog and facilitator. We now have 21 dogs and 16 facilitators. Some of our facilitators have more than one therapy dog. That's why the 21 number is a bit higher. We've delivered over 3,000 sessions, and we're now on the go 6 years. I think the most important thing to remember in here, and a bit similar to Anne and Katrina, is this is not funded by the department. It's not funded by either of the departments. We operate off the back of community support, and so we operate off the back of quite a large fundraiser every year that we do, but also lots of smaller supports, including Petstock Foundation, which I never thought we'd be in a partnership with Petstock, but we are, and they're amazing, and they take such good care of us. Catholic Development Fund, lots of smaller providers really coming on board because they really see the benefit of the work that we're doing. I've just got a quote from that very first child that we worked with that wouldn't come through that bedroom door for months and months. And just one or two of the things that she left us with before she left care. And she said, you know, I see Millie as my best friend, not just a dog that I'm training with. She's really bonded with me in the last 5 months that I've been working with her. She understands my emotions and I understand hers. I honestly can recommend this program for others who've experienced trauma like me. It does bring out my confidence and it can help to relax you. When I'm with Millie, it makes every bit of my stress that I'm latching onto go away. Working with Millie every day has brought my day to a different level of happiness. So that's, you know, just for that child, it meant so much. And she knew we were just doing this to work with her. And she came back when she was in her early 20s, and she came to visit us at the office. She saw these pictures on the wall and she said, you know, are you working with all of these dogs? And we said, yeah, this is all of the schools. And she couldn't believe that, you know, what started out with her is now expanded across Victoria and is supporting so many children. And the one question that she had for us was, are you working with primary school children? And we said, yeah, we are. We're working with lots of primary school children. And she said, that would have changed my life if I had had that support in primary school. And things like that, working in collaboration with them very special young people, really help us keep going and working, doing the hard work that we keep needing to focus on. I think it'd be far simpler if we were funded and if we had direction and reporting, but the fact that we have to continue in the manner that we are means that we work incredibly hard, but we are happy to continue doing that because we believe in this program and we understand that this program is having amazing outcomes on our young people, on their self-confidence, their ability to engage, and their ability to keep moving forward. This photo is just, I'm going to finish up with, this is the photo that really highlights all of the collaborative relationships that we have across the regions. We have this photos there of the Petstock Foundation, some of the fundraisers. I can see some of our staff at the fundraisers, some of the schools that we visit and work in collaboration with now moving forward. So we go out and we do presentations with the students around Mental Health Week. But you know, what might have started out as a school program, we end up staying on with a lot of them schools for in another capacity, which is, you know, it just speaks to that, you know, when you put in the work in that collaborative relationship, it grows and grows and grows. So that is where we are up to. We're also really proud to share that, you know, all of this work has led to the creation of a Therapy Dog Alliance that we now run, and that's across the nation, in bringing therapy dog handlers together to form an alliance where people can share and collaborate in an online space, because there's no other alliance, so there's no other place for people to be together and learn from one another. And we feel like we've had this you know, ability to do this for 6 years, and we've a lot to share with others so that our support can be shared elsewhere. So that's what we're focused on now, is building that alliance and supporting across the nation. That's all. I've just left our QR code up there if anyone would like to have a look at some of the work that we do. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you so much, Brona. That was so interesting and provided a lot of context, because I think some of us are quite aware of this as an option, but perhaps not with school disengagement, and particularly not. I've often thought out-of-home care kids, resi kids would be amazing. I suppose, look, I'm just going to ask you, we've run out a little bit of time and it's such a pity, but next steps, like there are structural challenges and so forth, but I want to ask you the same question I asked our previous one, and the two together work really well, don't they, in terms of responses to children's social and emotional needs. What if you had a magic wand and were able to take this forward, what would your vision for that be? Yeah.
So such a good question. I think our vision, and we have asked this question around what would we want in 5 years' time, where would we want this to be? And we've said that we would want, you know, every child who needed animal assisted intervention to receive the highest quality, the best practice, to ensure that beautiful intervention can support them to enhance their outcomes, social, emotional, or academic. So we would love to see investment in this industry itself to grow across the nation, because I haven't seen anything like it. And so for that to be available to every child who needs it would be my wish.
Yeah. Yeah. And a really worthy one. Because with those visions, that's how we align to try and make it happen, isn't it? And I think you've made a huge number of advocates right here, right now, and more power to MacKillop, because some of the innovation that they're leading is astounding, I think. Yeah, thank you very much, Brona.